Hey everybody, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about dragons because, as a lot of you pointed out in my last video, this depiction here on screen, we're being told it's a salamander. It might actually be a dragon, so should be interesting. Let's get into it. Now, as I started reading a lot of your guys' comments in the last video, I tend to agree with what you were pointing out, and this isn't a salamander as we're being told, but it's actually a dragon. And just as a bit of a refresher, we're told that this crowned salamander is linked to this King of France, King Francis I, in the early to mid 1500s. And I wasn't really even looking at it. I was kind of more focused on other aspects of the video, but once I started studying it, you guys are correct. And one of the dead giveaways is actually the claws on, this quote salamander, because salamanders do not have claws actually, but lizards have scales and claws. So it's definitely not a salamander in the neck, and you could point to many things. So why are they being deceptive about this? Because there's an entire backstory for why this king chose a salamander, and there are many publications that will back that narrative, but you can clearly see that it's not a salamander, but they're telling us it is. So that's very intriguing. So I wanted to look into that a bit more, and also the crown that is above the dragon. This crown, it's actually a prince's crown, and that is another interesting aspect for me because there are crowns associated with a king that look different. So this king is being depicted with a prince's crown. So I thought that was interesting, and when you kind of look into that a bit, you will find the official narrative does say that this king, Francis I, is often depicted with a prince's crown because apparently it represents his status as the Dauphin of France, the heir apparent to the throne before he became king. So I guess people continued to depict him with this prince's crown. That's, just very interesting. So I started looking into just this crowned salamander, which we now know to be a dragon. I wanted to see where else it popped up, and my search led me to Parliament Hill in Ottawa, Ontario. And this big structure here, front and center, this is actually referred to as the center block, and this is a library actually now. And there was a great fire, we're told, I think in 1916 or 17, and there was a structure here before that looked very similar to this, and we're told they decided to just tear it all down after the fire and build another structure that looks eerily similar to the previous one. But I came across an article talking about the fleur-de-lis, the salamander, and the thistle associated with Parliament Hill, Parliament's royal symbols. So as I started looking into this article, sure enough, there's, I guess, a lot of fleur-de-lis depictions associated with Parliament Hill. It appears all over Parliament Hill as a symbol. And even this spandrel in the center block building, there is a shield with a fleur-de-lis from the arms of France, and it's linked to Francis or Francois I again. So you got the three fleur-de-lis, and again a different type of crown here and two faces, but I recognize the three fleur-de-lis pattern in this coat of arms. And again, that's also depicted on that building in New York City, the Alwyn Court. So very interesting. But what else can be found on Parliament Hill is a crowned salamander, which we now know to be a dragon. And the salamander, we're being told it's an emblem of Francis I or Francois I, and it appears on a fireback from the center block. So I didn't even know there were all these connections to Francis I or Francois I on Parliament Hill. And again, the crown does look a bit different to me, so that is interesting. Now, I wanted to look into fleur-de-lis a bit, and of course, the fleur-de-lis is the official emblem of the kings of France since the 12th century. That makes sense, but they're also linked to the Medici family and Florence in particular. And of course, the Medici family is linked to Florence. But when I started looking into this, and they have a stylized fleur-de-lis linked to them, I noticed that on this same building in New York, once again, Alwyn Court, there does appear to be this stylized fleur-de-lis that is scattered throughout the facade of that building. And apparently this particular type of fleur-de-lis was the flag of the Republic of Florence from 1250 to 1532. And I guess the flag is still used today as a symbol of Florence, and to some degree previously the Medici family. So it just, to me, it seems like it's very similar to this particular flag of Florence, this what's being shown here on the facade of that building from New York. And this building is insane. The amount of decorative motifs on the facade, it is nuts, and it's pretty much spans all 12 floors of that building. But once again, here's just that fleur-de-lis on a crown, the Grand Ducal Crown of Cosimo I. So just another interesting element. And that building, once again in New York, there's several of these crowned, which I guess they're crowned dragons. Many of these faces that we see on a lot of the buildings we're kind of questioning. And these particular faces looks like a man, and here's a woman over here, and some lions over here, and some type of grotesque. This building, you could just study this building for hours. And there are several actually of these crowned dragons. And here's another woman represented with these cornucopias. The amount of effort that must have been put into everything we're seeing on the facade is unreal. There's also what appears to be a bearded man here as well. So just a lot going on, and this is just 4 or 5 of the floors here, and I wanted to show one more face, and looks like some type of green man, but there's a lot of crowns actually depicted on the facade of this structure. So a lot to look into. Now, this crowned salamander or dragon, it's actually depicted on a lot of coat of arms associated with regions of France, and these are just a few of them up top. And I'm just showing, this is, I think, a port city, but it's shown in publications, and this is another township or commune, and this is the area in France, but they're all depicting this crowned, what really is a dragon, but we're being told it's a salamander. But there must be a reason for the deception, but it shows up in a lot of places. And there's even something called a lindworm, which is a giant serpent-like monster from European folklore. And it goes by a few different spellings. But you can also see, this giant serpent-like monster breathing fire as well. And it's also on these coats of arms. And an archaeologist from the 1800s has described it as basically a dragon without wings. So there's a lot of depictions of things showing up on coats of arms that may be dragons or claim to be dragons, and I just wanted to mention a few of those. And something else here I wanted to mention, there's another crowned serpent that is associated with, I think, Milan in Italy, and it's linked to this family, the mythical origins of this Visconti coat of arms. And it shows this, what looks like a serpent, and it's a crowned serpent, and it seems to be swallowing somebody. And it's also on the Alfa Romeo logo, but it's this referred to as the Biscione. It's a snake symbol often associated with Milan, wearing a crown, and it represents this powerful ruling family, this dynasty in Milan, who use this snake as their symbol. So just a lot going on with crowned serpents and dragons, and here are some depictions of it in and around Milan, Italy. And I guess the former Prime Minister of Italy, Silvio Berlusconi, one of his residences, he's got this crowned serpent depicted on his lawn, apparently. So just a lot of interesting things seem to go back to Italy, France, and they're deceiving us about this salamander dragon issue. And I think I'm gonna have to dig into that a bit further, as well as the types of crowns that are showing up. But a lot of interesting rabbit holes to go down, but I think that's about all I got for you for today. I want to give a big shout out and thanks to my channel members. Thank you for all your help and support, greatly appreciated, as well as my patrons. Thank you as well for everything that you do. It's also greatly appreciated. So with that being said, until next time, take care. Bye.